We're going to talk about popularity of analytics, the reasons and sources behind this sudden popularity. We'll talk about application areas of analytics, and we'll also talk about some of the challenges of analytics. So why the sudden popularity of analytics? What happened? What has changed in the recent past that made analytics so popular? Well, first and foremost, it's the need for analytics. In the business, there is a globalization phenomena. So competition is changing and changing in a dramatic fashion. In the good old way of competing locally, regionally, domestically is out of the picture. Now everybody is competing everybody else on the face of the earth. So this globalization is bringing a lot of pressure on the organization, on the businesses, to make the most out of their resources so they can compete in this stiff competition environment, which is worldwide. So the business as usual is not as usual anymore. It has changed in a dramatic fashion, and the businesses need to find ways in which they can actually do better what they actually do to compete in this environment. Constantly changing customer needs and wants is another input to the challenges of businesses that they need to keep up. They need to understand their customers intimately, more so than the customers can understand themselves. They need to understand what they need, what they will need, when they're going to need it, what they want, what they don't want. And then from all that input, they need to figure out what products and services make sense to design, produce, and provide to their customer base so they can maintain and enhance their market presence. So the business needs is probably the most significant factor for the popularity of analytics. They need to do better. They need to produce more with less. Okay? And the second factor that plays into the popularity of analytics is the availability and affordability of both software and hardware resources. As we all know, hardware, the capabilities are increasing, prices are decreasing, so there is a better chance of buying and putting together, configuring relatively large analytic systems without spending a lot of money. At the same time, on the software side, on the algorithmic side, there has been significant improvements in artificial intelligence, in machine learning algorithms that can crunch large quantities of data and extract knowledge out of it. Some of those technologies that bring together both hardware and software includes in-memory, in-database processing, as opposed to, for instance, extracting the data from database and then pushing it into a analytics algorithm. Now we can actually push the algorithm inside a database and make the data and analytics algorithms sit side by side to, at an order of magnitude, increase the processing efficiency of those algorithms on top of very large data sets. Another thing that kind of augmented the popularity of analytics is the automatic data collection. In the old days, the data collection needed to be done mostly manually, semi-automatic fashion in transaction systems. Customer surveys, mostly, if not completely, manual, where paper-based forms are filled out and then transcribed into the computer that establish the data foundation of analytics. Nowadays, most of the data is being collected automatically without having a human being in the middle, which increases the speed and the quantity of data that you collect, but also increases the quality and the reliability of the data, right? The completeness of the data. So all of those are working in favor of the analytics popularity. Another input to popularity is the culture change. There is a shift in the management philosophy where data is being valued. Good old-fashioned decision-making practices that relies on experiences, gut feelings, and intuitions are not sufficient enough anymore. A lot of the successful businesses and organizations will not even listen to you if you're not basing your opinions on hard facts, the data, So it's kind of leading towards data, fact-driven managerial practices and decision-making practices. All of these three dimensions collectively lay the foundation for the tremendous popularity of analytics in the last few years. And that popularity led to large number of successful implementation of analytics systems, ranging from business to government, from entertainment to healthcare medicine. If you look at, for instance, business context, analytics application help businesses to better understand their customers. It helps them better understand, design, and produce products. It makes them more innovative, more customer-focused. It helps them optimize their operations so they can cut cost while improving the quality as well as the timeliness of their processes. On the manufacturing setting, analytics helps tremendously both on the effectiveness, doing the things right, if you will, the know-how improves to an optimal level so that all the unnecessary activities can be filtered out of the system, as well as the efficiency, making it fast, making it with the least amount of resources, automating it, and then while doing that, cutting the cost, improving the quality, improving the customer satisfaction. One area that probably benefited from analytics the most in the recent years is the healthcare and medicine area. The reason that it benefited from analytics more so than any other business sectors is because there was so much that can be done in healthcare. We're still dealing with a healthcare system that is defined as chaotic. Nobody knows what happens and why it happens, why the cost is so high, while the outcome is not justifying the input that you're putting in it. The efficiency of the system is highly questionable. So that means there is so much that analytics can do in healthcare area to help professionals, professional in the sense that managers, decision makers, clinicians, all of which collectively can use analytics to make faster, better decisions by tapping into large quantities of data. With respect to science, one example would be a Large Hadron Collider by CERN out of Switzerland, generating tremendous amount of data, petabyte level data every hour, every day, that scientific organizations all around the world tapping into analyzing to understand the fundamental relationships that establishes the very foundation of our existence. On the entertainment and sports area, there's a push of analytics in the recent years. One good example of that would be the sports analytics conference that MIT organizes every year. They have space for 3,000 attendees, and then the whole conference sells out in a matter of minutes, and then several thousand people gets in the waiting line. That shows you how much interest is in there to do analytics, to merge analytics in sports. With respect to sports, it's not just predicting which team is going to win, but also the managerial side of sports, which players to recruit, how to organize the composition of the team at certain point during the game. It all depends upon who you are playing against. So there is so much data that's being collected, which can be analyzed and then put in use to improve both the outcome of the sporting events, but also the management of sport teams. A lot of the European teams in soccer are using sports analytics. There is so much literature out there that you can actually read about sports analytics. And in this lessons, we will talk about an example, a paper that I wrote with a colleague of mine, where we predicted the outcome of NCAA ball games, football games at the end of the season, and how we actually crafted the model and how we collected data and what kind of results that we actually obtained from it. We'll all look at that and we'll use that data for showcasing some of the data mining software tools and environments. Another area where analytics has been used and being used very extensively is internet. Social media, social network analysis has become a significant component because there is so much data, because there is so much that can be extracted from that data, from advertising, commercial, as well as from security standpoint. Government is interested in analytics, especially for national security, collecting, analyzing data to figure out what is about to happen before things happen so they can put the means in place to prevent certain adverse events to take place. So there is so much that has been accomplished in analytics, in the application areas in the recent years. It would be very hard to find an area, a sector, an industry where there is not a significant amount of analytics studies have been completed and published in business magazines and journal articles. Of course, it comes with some of the challenges, and here are a few of the ones that kind of surfaces in the challenges side of analytics. First and foremost, it's the talent shortage. Analytics is new, it's hugely popular, and we don't have enough people to fill the need for a large number of organizations who need that talent. And we'll talk about a term called data scientist, one of the popular roles in organizations nowadays. And where do they come from? A lot of universities are starting new degree programs, new certificate programs to fill the need originated from the industry in the context of analytics professionals. Another challenge is the culture. Old habits die hard. So changing the way in which the managers make decisions is going to take some time, maybe a generation, to fully adapt and move towards the evidence-based, data-driven decision-making, replacing the good old-fashioned experience, gut feelings, intuition, and hunches-driven managerial decision-making practices. The one that is quite difficult is justification of the return on investment. Analytics will make things better, but it's not going to happen in a very short time. It will take time to recraft your managerial practices, and then most of the time it's really hard to convert those outcomes into numbers to justify analytics investments. So that kind of brings about a challenge for people who are promoting analytics movement in an organization without having solid financial numbers that backs it up in the context of return on investment. It is hard, can be done, should be done, in my own opinion. Another challenge is the data. Even though bigger is better in the data context, in the analytics, bigger data, variety of data, and the speed at which the data is being generated brings about a complexity to capture it, to store it, and to analyze. Although technology, both hardware and software, is improving exponentially to handle big data, there's still a long way to go before we actually have the systems readily available to process big data. And last but not least, security and privacy. When there is data, there is issues about someone else from outside the organization tapping into it. Data breach, if you will, we hear it every now and then on the news programs. Also privacy of the individuals where the data is being generated. We have to be quite sensitive to both security and privacy issues, and those brings about another challenge to fully adapt and implement analytic systems.